Very pleased to be joined by my next guest, six-time Ryder Cup player, Padraig Harrington. Of course, he's three-time major winner as well. Padraig, what's going on in Ireland? How are you?
Yeah, it's strange times, I suppose, in Ireland at the moment. We're still pretty much on lockdown. If I take off my hat, you can see that I'm in badly need of a haircut, and that will be my first point of call when I get to the States. Is get a bit of a cut. The barbers aren't open here yet, so yeah, the weather's kind of turned. It's got a little nicer. It's May here, so the golf course has just opened up again in terms of being open for COVID. Obviously, they're open all year here, so people are back out the course. The weather's decent, back out practicing. It's strange, but it's kind of nice for us golfers that we're back out there and the summer to look forward to.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being back out there, you were out there in the States for 80 straight days. And of course, you got your dog at home, Wilson. Like, how did he handle that?
He's like all dogs. Whoever's feeding him is the one he likes the most. So I'm sure he didn't miss me too much, but I hope my wife and kids miss me. I suppose I hope Wilson missed me. But yeah, it was 80 days is the longest run I've ever been away for. I have done some long runs. Back when I was a kid, I would have gone, not a kid, when I started out, I might have gone, I think I went 10 weeks, but my wife traveled with me, sort of thing. Now, on my own, I did 2 weeks in the Middle East and 2 weeks in the Middle East and 9 weeks in the States. So it was a long trip. And by the end of it, I did really want to get home. It's strange. In the middle of it, it was okay.
Yeah.
Even all the way up onto the second last week, it was fine. But when I got to the last week, I just wanted to go. You know the finish line is so close, you just want to go.
And how did you stay connected to your family there? Your Patrick and the others.
Look, it is easy. Back when I started out, it was pay phones and collect calls and that sort of stuff back in 96, 95 when I was at tour school. I can remember ringing home every night from a pay phone and finding the coins to do it. Now, it's amazing it's gone full circle, because when, around 2000, we'd be traveling to countries where it'd be €3 or €4 an hour to use your phone, or a minute to use your phone. So it was like incredibly expensive and a big deal. Like, it'd be a couple of €100 to make a phone call. Whereas now everything is free. So you just get in FaceTime, ring home. You can see the family. You can see the dog, Wilson. You can do it. You're ringing several times a day. So you don't miss out. Now, I do have 2 teenage kids. So anybody who has teenage kids, they'll know that doesn't matter. They're not going to get much time on FaceTime or any talk time out of them. So, it's a hello. I want to get back to my game. Goodbye.
And you're just the parent on the side. You just got to go with it, huh?
Look, that's the way of the world, isn't it? That's it. We were pretty good. It's a lot easier once you're a successful professional golfer. It's easier because you can bring your family with you when you're going places, and it's nice for them to go. They're traveling well. They're traveling. Hotels are good. It's really difficult for, I won't say an average, but certainly even like a good, slightly below average pro, certainly a struggling pro. It's very difficult to be on the road if he's got a wife and kids or a partner and kids at home, because you can't afford to bring them, or like if you've got a young baby, you can't afford to get a second room. That sort of thing is tough. But it's okay at the top. There's no doubt about it. So I don't think anybody should feel sorry for me for being away 80 days. But there's definitely, I see it with some of the younger pros. Now, if you're young, free and single, sure, what else would you be doing but out there playing golf? You're young, free and single, you play 40 weeks a year. It's kind of crazy now that the young lads seem to think, and this came from Tiger, that 20 tournaments a year is what you should play. When I came out on tour, everybody played between 28 and 32 events. Everybody. Yeah. It was Tiger was the first person who whittled that down, and I know other people have tried to seem to think that's the role, I suppose, the model, but it really wasn't. Tiger Tiger was unique that he could play. He could come out cold into an event, not having played 2 or 3 weeks, and come out and play his very best. Whereas most people need to be out on the golf course competing and playing in order to get the best out of their game. So, like for me, it takes me nearly the third week is normally my best week.
Yeah. Well, speaking of competing and playing, what the all-time European Tour winner, Seve Ballesteros, here we are. It's May. It's already May of 2021, and it's 10 years since he's passed. It's hard to believe. But what did you make of what he meant to what Team Europe is, or was in the past and is today? Paddy.
He still means an awful lot to the Ryder Cup and Europe in terms of the Ryder Cup. He's still very much, I suppose, the iconic figure of leading the team. You know, there will be plenty of pictures of him around our team, and that he will still be used as an inspirational figure. It is interesting that, you know, he brought us a long way. You know, back in the 80s, Europeans struggled to be given access to the majors, access to the bigger events in the world, and the Ryder Cup was very much the way that Europe proved itself, and Seve led that. You know, it was a big deal to go, if we can beat the US in the Ryder Cup, well, we deserve a bigger cut in the pie. We deserve more places in the majors. We deserve, you know, more say in the world rankings. It was all about that. Seve led the way, and it was very much because of the fact that Seve felt he wasn't given the access, or struggled to get the access that a player of his stature should have got. And now we do, because of Seve and the others. You know, Seve, Sandy Lyle, Bernard Langer, Woozy. I hope I haven't forgot any back in the 80s. You know, who led
Sandy
the way.
Lyle, yeah, Woozy,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's no doubt Seve had the passion for that, and he really wanted to prove his point. And you know, he's famous for going up against Mr. Beeman on the PGA Tour. So yeah, look, that's the way it was, and he certainly is still an inspiration today. Even though I don't think the Ryder Cup is as much. It's not as much them and us anymore. You know, both sets of teams are very familiar with each other. Because of what Seve led the way, we actually all know each other. We play in the same tournaments most of the year. You know, so it's strange. It's harder to, you know, when you know somebody, you can't turn around and say, oh, you know, fight against them. We don't like them. They're different, but we know each other. So you know, we're friends. So that sort of acrimony wouldn't be there now between the teams. So, like when I played in '99, my first one, there was players on the US team I'd never met. Yeah, like that's unthinkable now. As in, everybody is well. We know each other very well, and you see the players would play very tough on the golf course, and I would certainly advocate for, you know, great matches. You know, real passionate matches, but on Sunday night, everybody is friends. You know, they shake hands and move on. You know, they know that they're going to be playing and paired up with each other in tournaments going forward. So there's none of them and us as there would have been back in the day.
In the past, yeah. Well, speaking of the Ryder Cup, obviously you have the American side here with all the restrictions of coming to America for European Tour fans. You're expecting, you said in your blog that you're expecting there to be even more of a American home advantage this time. So how will that help or hurt the team, do you think, your European team?
Obviously, there's going to be a fair amount of Europeans who travel from the US who are based in the US. And I think one of the things I would also say is the US fans who travel to the Ryder Cup, many of them will be fans of European players in, week out. So I would assume under these times, and I would hope that they support their team as passionately as ever. Really, we all want to have a great atmosphere at the Ryder Cup. We all want to hear the noise. We want the excitement. So I would certainly be one to say to every US fan, go out there and, you know, scream and shout and really enjoy supporting your home team. But it is golf after all. So, you know, there's a time and place. You do that with your team and then let the Europeans have a go and we'll see how it goes. You know, there really isn't a thing in golf. It's kind of opposite to other sports. you support your team and you let the other team play. You don't kind of get, you know, and I don't see it happening because with COVID and everything this year. I think people are going to be there to have a good time. There isn't that same acrimony about the matches as there would have been 20, 30 years ago. It is played in a better spirit. But we certainly want a loud and vocal crowd. You know, we want the excitement. Remember, the players are playing. We're playing for the I suppose for the, how would you put this? We're playing for the joy of playing for your country. We're playing for the excitement. We're playing for the buzz of it. So we nobody wants it not to be passionate and excited. So let's hope it's done in the right spirit, which I assume it will be. You know, there's no reason why it wouldn't. And I expect this time round, you know, in the strange times that we are, it will probably be a very sporting occasion.
Yes. Oh, I'd imagine. Yeah, in these times. For you, though, what's been the biggest surprise in your preparation for this team, and how do you feel the team's coming together thus far? We're still a few months out.
The biggest surprise has been COVID. Obviously, nobody realised it would be delayed a year. Yeah, crazy times. As regards how it's affected my preparations, well, the administration stuff was easier, you know, because we had more time. I think the team-wise has been a little bit tougher. You know, normally we'd have team dinners, you know, where we'd all get together at events, and we obviously can't do that. You know, normally you'd be out there more and being able to have individual dinners and mix more, but again, that hasn't been possible. So yeah, it's been a little bit awkward in that sense of just getting together. But I don't think there's plenty of time, as in it's not something that, you know, we've got nearly 5 months left, so it's not like it isn't. It just hasn't been as seamless as maybe it would be if there was no such thing as COVID.
Mm. Well, during Ryder Cup weeks, I know as a player, as a six-time player, and then a vice captain in 2014, 2016, 2018, what is sleep like during a week of a Ryder Cup for Paddy?
It's okay when you're the vice captain, I can tell you that. For the player, you know, the player's always tired. At least I was always tired at Ryder Cup. You're pretty stressed because you've long days on the golf course. You're trying to squeeze in some practice, and then you have media and some social functions to do. You've got team meetings, you've got things you got to do, and it does stretch out the day. By the time you get to bed, you're tired. You know, I think I certainly remember sleeping was not an issue for me when it came to the Ryder Cup. But I will say it is very important for the players, and you look back at this, I know I would have made this mistake, not to overextend themselves the week of a Ryder Cup, because there is a lot more stress and pressure than a regular week.
Mm. How has your evaluation of players been going to this point?
Pretty good. That's easy. We've got stats. We've got all sorts of things. We've got profiles. You know, we really know. That's very simple on the outside looking in, and being able to look at styles of player, and you know, I know the US have 6 picks, so there's obviously a lot up in the air with who they're, you know, when they go to finalize their team, who could be in and who isn't. My team, I've got nine qualify automatically. That's a very strong 9 at the moment, as in it's unlikely to change. And then I've 3 picks, and when you have 3 picks, it really does narrow down how many potentially could get into the team. So I have a much tighter grouping of really who could be in my team, and it's a lot easier even this far out to start looking at partnerships and pairings. You know, there might be somebody who's not absolutely on the radar, you know, but it's unlikely that you know, it's hard to say that I couldn't be very close to picking at least 10, if not 11 of my team already. You know, they would be pretty obvious with just the way the system works. So as I said, there's not huge room for maybe one player to play his way into the top 9, and as I said, with 3 picks, it really does. There might be 4 or 5 players in contention for those 3 picks, maybe 6. So it's easier to to sort of look into the future and say, well, this is what we need in terms of forces and four-ball.
Yeah. And how everyone complements each other. What about the older superstars? There's some that aren't qualified for the team yet. Does that surprise you at all?
No, it's going to be 3 years since the last Ryder Cup, so you always have a changing, and the old guys move on and new guys come in. The one thing we know in Europe is rookies have always been very good in the Ryder Cup. They've played great and they bring something special to the team. And the older guys who are in the team will need the enthusiasm that the younger guys bring. So yeah, you're looking for a good mix. I don't see any more natural attrition than there is most Ryder Cups. There would be a couple of old guys who are, nearly good enough, like myself in 2012. You make the last team. You don't make the year you don't make a team. It's not like you've just disappeared. You just weren't quite there. And there'll be one or two like that this time around for sure. I do notice though that some of those old guys are starting to put a bit of a move on and starting to play well. That has been interesting. The experienced guys that, if you picked the team maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, looked like they definitely weren't in with a chance, have now started moving on and coming good. And it would be interesting come September when I do make the final picks, how many of those experienced guys have come back into the form, because from talking to them, they are very focused on making the team.
Yes, as they should be. You've been a part of 4 winning Ryder Cup teams as a player. What has been your favorite memory there at Ryder Cup there?
A lot of good memories. 99 where we lost was incredibly exciting. Your first Ryder Cup, everything about it. I played very well that week. I won my singles on the Sunday, and it looked like that was going to be the pivotal match. Certainly the way the crowd swelled around the match I was playing Mark O'Meara, and the way they were talking, it was like my match was going to make the difference. And when I won, we actually thought, not that I'd hold the winning putt, but we thought that it made the difference. And obviously that was taken away very quickly when Justin Leonard held that putt in 17 about 10 minutes after I finished. But it was incredibly exciting and nerve-wracking. Everyone winning in 2002, was a big deal to come back with the win after 99. And that was a very important one for Europe, because we'd won in 97. We had a good team in 99. If we lost in 2002, it would have broken maybe the spirit of a young team that went on to win quite a few Ryder Cups. So it was a big win to win there. Them winning in the US 90 in 2000, they were all good. 2004 with Bernard Langer, that was brilliant. Strangely winning in Ireland in 2006 was nice. We won so easy. It was just nice. It wasn't, if you win by holding the putt in the final green team wise, and there wasn't the drama in the K Club. I was stressed as an Irish person that would go well, and we had bad weather that week, which was but we got it done. And I just remember just feeling relieved rather than anything else, winning in the K Club. I did get to crowd surf there, which that's a highlight, yeah. In the tented village, I went into the tented village going back on the Sunday evening, and the crowd picked me up, put me over their heads, and passed me around, myself and David Howell. So that was my one and only time, and certainly I will put that down as a lifetime ambition and highlight.
And what did that feel like though in those moments?
Yeah, you lose your shoe, you lose this, you lose that. There's lots of souvenirs that go away, but that was something I had the opportunity. I thought about in 2004. We were in a bar, an Irish bar, and it was jammed, and I was standing on the bar and thinking, God, this would be a good opportunity, but I didn't go for it. So it happened nice and organically in 2006, and as I said, it is one of those things you go, yeah, it's pretty nice to be crowd surfing and be the center of attention, if you know what I mean, the way the crowd was cheering and going on. So yeah, that was a special moment for sure. Lots of good memories. Winning 2010, I think winning as a vice captain with Paul McGinley in 2014 was really good. Just because it meant so much to Paul, I think that was a big highlight. I probably learned the most losing with Darren Clark in 2016. Yeah, that was just a tough week. Everything went against us. We seemed to be always behind the 8 ball, always scrambling. And you know, when you look back at it too, like we felt like we were always fighting, scrambling, trying to get back, trying to recover. You know, it was really difficult. But when you kind of look back at it, you go, wow, it's just difficult to beat the US team on a Hazeltine type golf course. That was a great team in playing in the conditions that really suited them. And, you know, as much as we might look back and say, I wish we did something different, I do actually think they just had a great team that beat us that week. And it would be, I'd hate to be going up against the US on like in a Hazeltine or the Miracle of Medina or, you know, Valhalla. These are golf courses, you know, if the course is set up like those ones, it's just, you know, it's just tough for us to beat it on those traditional US golf courses.
Yeah. Well, a U.S. golf course you're about to get to, Kiawah Island, you tied for 18th there in 2012. What do you expect from that course? What do you remember about the characteristics of that course, Kiawah?
Well, I won the World Cup there in '97 with Paul McGinley, so I have fond memories of it. I've played it a few times. I really like the golf course. I know I tied. I think I was close, if not second or very close to second place with 9 holes to go. That time I did panic on my last 9 holes coming home. I remember I had that horrible sinking feeling you get in the golf course every now and again that the clubhouse just couldn't come quick enough. Yeah, it's a horrible feeling. It really, there's nothing worse than when you're on the golf course and you just can't get to the clubhouse quick enough. You know, just that was one of those. It happens to all of us. It's amazing, you know. You just can't get in quick enough. You know, as every hole goes on, it ain't getting any better. So that was, yeah. But I liked the venue. I liked the golf course. I really liked the golf course. So I'm looking forward to it. It's 2 weeks, and I haven't played a major now in over 2 years.
As you said, Open Championship, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm startled by that. You know, I play next week at the Byron Nelson, and it's quite important for me to show that if I'm going to play well at the PGA, I'm not a player. As I said, I'm the opposite of Tiger. Tiger was able to turn up and have plenty of time off and turn up and play his best golf. I need to play myself into form. So, you know, I'm looking at the Byron Nelson next week and hoping to hit the ground running, show a bit of form, ideally get yourself into contention and feel a little bit of nerves so that, you know, when you get there in the PGA, if you start feeling nervous, it's nothing better than, you know, having experienced it the week or two before.
Well, how do you get to TPC Craig Ranch? I mean, I imagine you've never played that course, right? Because it's a new one, right?
No.
How does Patty prepare for a brand new golf course?
Well, how do I get there? I have no idea. That's somebody else's responsibility. One of my best, you know, people ask me about my personality. I managed to travel to an event, obviously in a foreign country, and didn't know what airport I landed in. I didn't know what city I was in. As in, I was traveling, and I traveled pretty much now full time with my caddy. I was traveling at that stage with my wife, and between myself and my caddy Ronan, it nearly is it's like a running competition for who will pay attention the least, or who will break. Like we get to an airport, and like it's like who's going to be the last one to actually look at the monitor and check something, because we both sit there waiting for the other person to be the responsible one. And I certainly, when my wife is traveling, I just go when I'm told to go. And I have managed to go to an event like it was actually in Germany. I landed in a city, could have been like a big city like Frankfurt or somewhere like that, and I had no idea. When somebody asked me at the event, I went, I have no idea where I flew into or what. So, yeah, I'm good at delegating that. I don't get stressed by travel. So I know I'll get there. I travel out on Sunday. I know if I don't get there on Sunday, I get there Monday. At the end of the world, there's always another flight. So as regards preparation on the golf course, the yardage books are so good these days. You could nearly play the courses blind, and they do change. Remember, there's no substitute for playing a competition on a golf course, but practice rounds, yeah, they're important. But we follow each other. We follow other pros. Like if you haven't played the golf course, you're watching what everybody's doing. You're getting an idea for it, And if you're standing on a hole, and even if you're first off, and you've got driver in your hand, and you happen to notice that your two playing partners have got a 3-wood or an iron, you do go, hang on a second here. If I don't know this hole, now clearly if you know it, you proceed with your own strategy. But if somebody's using a different strategy on a hole you don't know, even if you're first up, you're going to second guess that strategy and go, hang on a second, have we got this right? Have I got the right target here? And the truth of it, if I can't make it to a golf course to play a practice round, which has happened once or twice, it'd be unusual that I wouldn't have sent my caddy ahead to have, done the whole golf course. And the caddies, when they're out in the course, they don't just walk the golf course. They walk it when other people are playing it. So they'll actually, usually what I often have, they'll go and walk nearly 18 holes with a friend of theirs who's caddying for a player, and actually do the whole round with that player and see how they played the golf course. Because like most important things, I got cut out this year because I played LA this year at Riviera, the Genesis, and because of COVID, I had no practice rounds. And what stumped me actually was the firmness of the greens. I just, through the first 9 holes, I think I landed on 7 greens and only managed to hit 2 greens in regulation. I might have landed on all 9 of them or something. It was ridiculous. I just kept bouncing through, and it doesn't matter how much you tell yourself, it takes a while just to get that this thing is going to, take a 10, 15 yard skip forward. So you have to get used to that a little bit in practice rounds, but a lot of golf courses, you can get away with it and just play it reasonably blind.
Yeah. Well, you've won 3 major championships. You've been a big part of others. What's the biggest regret of your career at this point? At age 49, Patty, you're going to be 50 in August.
People ask me, and there's no doubts I've made plenty of mistakes over the years. I've and I have made mistakes, but I don't regret them. Whatever I've done, I've enjoyed doing, and yeah, I would tell somebody to do it different in different places and that, but it's made me who I am. So I don't have a regret. As regards individual shots, if you were asking me which ones I'd take back, I hit it in the bunker on the last hole in 2002 at Muirfield at the Open Championship. I was trying to make birdie. As it turned out, par would have got me in the playoff. I learned a lot from that, but certainly, yeah, par would have been in the playoff, which was a big deal. You never know what's going to happen in the playoff. 2006, I had 3 pars to win at Wingfoot, as it turned out, and I did pretty much similar thing. I bogeyed the 16th and panicked a bit, thinking I needed to make birdies coming home, but clearly 2 more pars would have got me in the playoff. So again, like I'd have put in the last green to get in the playoff. So yeah, you look at things like that in hindsight, but every time you do it, you learn from it. And those experiences definitely helped me win in Carnoustie, definitely helped me win my 3 majors. Yeah, the other ones, like I look back at 2012 Olympic Club. I think I had the birdie the last for a playoff, and I was my wedge play was great, and I actually made bogey. But what was strange about that for that week, I had the yips. I had 2 4-putts in that week, and like I had 2 4-putts, and I have to make 3 down the last to be in a playoff. from the fairway. So, you know, people, you just don't realize how everybody's tournament, and I'm sure, like, I could sit here and say, well, you know, a birdie down there would have done X, Y, but maybe somebody would have done something different if I did that. But there's probably 4 or 5 players who would go away from each tournament and go, hang on a second, if this had turned my way, it could have been my winning week. The key is that the winner, he took his chance. You know, that's what, that when you win a tournament, it really is, you took your chance. Very rarely is it as clean as people would like to think, that the guy who won is the best player that week. No, he took his chances. He was the one who you know, at the right time was brave enough to hit the right shot. But there's always 4 or 5 guys that will walk away and go, I played well enough. If only I had done X, Y, or Z, things would have been different.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, I do want to have you grab a club here. You're in your studio there, your hitting range. I would love to get a little tip on short wedge shots. Think about the amateur at home. You know, maybe they go for broke and they hit a big drive on a par 4, and all of a sudden they've got 73 yards in, right? And they're like, wait a minute, I'm not used to this distance.
Short wedge shots, okay. Let me see. I've got to get myself a glove for this. Okay, I have a glove. I have an old glove. 1 second, just going to grab a glove to do this nicely for you.
I hear you. I appreciate it, Patty.
So, it's very nice, you know, when you've got all these nice. I can take out a brand new glove to do a bit of chipping. You know, first and foremost, I would say, you know, if you want to be a good, say, a chipper of the ball. So let's start with something that's a little bit shorter. Anything around the green. The biggest thing is where your body is positioned, your weight, your center of gravity, your sternum. So if I was chipping, and say I was chipping this direction, the key here is I never ever want, as I'm chipping, I never want to be going back into my right side. So I never want this, like if you were hitting a driver, you'd have lots of side bend here. But on a chip shot, if you're going back this way, your weight's back here, you're always going to end up hitting well behind the ball, like so. And you're going to get all sorts, you're never meant to hit the ground behind the ball. Anybody who tells you should work the bounce, they're wrong. The bounce is only there to help you when you get it wrong. You don't try and get it wrong on purpose. So the key is you want to try and hit the ball cleanly and have your divot under or ahead of the ball. And the way you do that is you lean in. So you stay on that left-hand side. So you can see my divot is starting right there, like so.
Yeah.
And I make sure I don't do that. No scooping back here. And that would be the same in bunkers. Don't try and help it up by going back into your right side and squeeze. Stay left. And the practice drill is very simple. Just get yourself I don't do it with a shaft because you could break the shaft, but you get yourself an alignment rod, put it 4 or 5 inches behind the ball. I'm going to do it a little tighter. I'm not going to hit the ball because I'm going to, and look, just make sure you're hitting left of that thing. If I was to back up, you'd see how I hit the stick. Okay, now that's for anything under 50 yards where you don't need power. Stay on your left, set yourself on the left-hand side and just stay there all the time and make sure your divots are left of the golf ball. For a full pitch, yeah, there's, and this is where most people get a bit confused. There is a transition. So like 50 yards, I don't need power. I can stay left. If I was hitting a driver, I've got to, even though I say centered, I've got to turn and create a little bit of pivot over here. You don't need that big movement on a pitch shot. So I would say to most people, you're basically, there is like for 70 yards, if you don't need power, which most people won't, you know, it's okay to be a little bit on your left side. You wouldn't have your heel coming up and you're staying pretty sit and you're staying left. You've got to be left when you're hitting it. Okay.
At impact, right?
At impact. You just don't want to get, you never want to get this backing up motion. It's not a full golf shot because, as I said, a full golf shot, you would have that movement over here to the right-hand side. and the squat down and up you go, which would be a full. On a pitch, I would say to most people on a pitch, you can stay pretty left on it, but don't back up. So you're allowed to have more weight on your left leg at the top of the backswing, but you're not trying to go backwards. Stay left. And I would say to you mostly, you're thinking of a short backswing with a bigger. I know people like to hold their finish or shorten their finish, but a lot of bad pitchers have a long backswing. They're trying to use their body, whereas a good pitcher, for most amateurs, concentrate on using your hands and arms. Make your body follow your hands and arms. Don't think that. I can guarantee you, standing over an 80-yard pitch shot, thinking to yourself that you should turn your shoulder is not going to do you any good. Standing there and just giving it a nice swish with your hands and arms, make it simpler by using your hands and arms. Don't complicate it. Don't make it. It's not a golf swing. You don't need to think like, oh, I've got to make this turn. I've got to be connected. I've got to be this. I've got to pivot. Forget that. Most people from 80 yards, if you just sit, if you have any athletic ability, just flip the ball. Just give it that will do the job. It's not complicated. It's not a golf swing. Don't worry about having to look. Use your hands and arms, your hands as much as you can, and just give it a nice action with your hands and you'll get pretty good at it. So I would definitely say for anybody who's struggling from 80 yards, 70 yards, or maybe even that little bit shot, the in-between shot they don't like, concentrate on using your wrists more and your arms more. Most people are trying to take them out. I'd say to them, no, you add them in and make them active. And the more you make them active, the more they'll work correctly. And the body would, look, I guarantee you will turn. If you try and use your hands and arms and don't try and stop your body will turn enough and your hips will turn enough. I'm not telling you to not use them. I'm just saying don't be thinking you've got to lead with your hips or arms, or sorry, your hips or torso. Use your hands and arms and just, as I said, nobody would have a problem if you just said, oh, you've only got this. Just give it. They can all do a practice thing like that, and that's more hands and arms generated, using those wrists to fire in. And then once you're using your wrists, you can figure out if you want to open them up or close them down because they're active. So it's don't be concentrating on thinking that an 80-yard pitch is about getting the right amount of shoulder turn. Just give it a flick with your hands and just get good at it. You'll figure it out after a while once you do a little bit of practice. Using your hands and arms.
Speaking of hands and arms, is that a big part of longer bunker shots? We amateurs get in a long bunker shot and we're out of our element.
Yeah, but it's not a big deal to you guys. If I swear to you, if a long bunker shot is your biggest problem in golf, you're a good enough player that you're way focused on something that's minutely. It's not going to improve your scoring, put it like that. But yes. If I was hitting a longer bunker shot, I might take a little less loft. I might go down to 56, 52, but I actually do a little bit more lean.
Ooh.
That makes, but again, there's no point in leaning if you're going to do that. So if I do the lean, I just stay there. So I give it even a little bit more lean so I get closer to the golf ball. But you do have to be brave. You cannot go forward in the backswing. And then go backwards as most amateurs do. You've got to stay in position. So it's very much that way, never backwards.
Patty, I know you said you shortened your warm-ups here as you're in your later 40s. What do we as amateurs need to be feeling as we're going to the first tee? Like, how do we want our body to feel after our warm-up session?
Well, you should feel like it's not going to break when you go to hit it. You should feel like you can hit your first ball as hard as you want to. You should feel like that you can hit the ball on the first the same way you're going to hit it on the 5th or the 14th or the 18th. As in, it shouldn't feel like you have to get into the round. I think physically, I grew up without driving range, so we'd get out of the car 10 minutes before our tee time. We'd swing 2 clubs to get used to the weight, and we go. That's not a great system. You know, as I get older, I'll do a few stretches, a few dynamic moves. One thing I found very good to mimic, and this is the hardest thing, if you haven't got a practice range, and by the way, you only need to hit 15, 20 balls on the range. But if you haven't got a practice range, I think one of the things I've found very good to mimic the physicality of swinging the ball, swinging the club, is I would throw a golf ball. So if I come out after a rain delay, so now when we get the rain delays on tour, we might be told you're back on the tee in 10 minutes. So you don't get to go to the range. It could be that quick. So I basically would go and get a golf ball, and I put it in my right hand, and I throw it. Now I'm not this golf ball, because it's bouncy here, obviously in the grass, but I throw it flat out like so. I have to watch that.
Yeah.
I have a head.
You don't want to break your computer.
I have a heavy ball, so I would do this as a train. This is a bit heavy. It's a 2-pound ball. Tom House throwing balls, these are, but you shouldn't be throwing it. So look, that's the best way of getting the velocity into my arms that I need when I swing. So I do that with a golf ball. I do it right-handed, I do it two-handed, and I do it left-handed. Don't often do it in my socks, and I'm just saying I better not hit my feet doing that. Right. But that's a drill that, you know, if you were waiting 20 minutes on a tee box and you were, you know, that's a good drill that you could actually physically do. It's not a training aid to throw your golf ball on the golf course, you know, because if you took your training aid out of the bag, it would be a penalty. And yet you could feel physically warmed up. So if I was waiting on a par 5, I would do that.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a good way to feel aggressive still, because you can obviously throw as hard as you can down. That's a drill as well. It's a peak count drill. If you throw it forward, I'll show you now. If you throw it forward, so if you want to mimic a golf swing, so if you get a golf ball right hand, 2 fingers as a right hand, and if I throw it into the ground about two yards ahead of me to go straight, that mimics every bit of the golf swing. So it gives you the right amount of shoulder turn, hip turn, right amount of arm, right amount of wrist break, everything. So if I go, I lost my balance a bit there, but if you throw a golf ball like that, that's if you're at home in the garage, I know it's not the winter anymore, and you wanted to practice, well, how much do I turn my hips? Well, if I was going to throw the ball aggressively into the ground, 2 yards in front of me, not here now, well, that's how much I turn my hips. That's how much I lift my heel. That's how much I turn my shoulders. That's the rhythm I go at. It basically mimics everything you should do in the golf swing. So if I did that again, so if I was to go, I hold my wrist. If I go there, okay, if I put the club, you'll see it's exactly a golf swing.
Yeah, that's how far you take it back. Yeah.
It mimics your golf swing. What you will find in a golf swing is the backswing is shorter than you think, and the follow through should be longer than the backswing. If your wristers have you see a lot of people, and they'll go long and short. It should be short and long for the most speed and the most power. So long and short is not good. I know you see some of the long hitters, the long drive guys, they'll go very long in the backswing, but they don't go short and follow through. They still have an even longer follow through than backswing. So your follow through has to be longer than your backswing, whatever you're doing.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe not in a pitch or like a shorter shot, but on a golf shot, makes you. And it's really good for your swing to practice with a short backswing. Even if you're going to use a long backswing, practice with a short swing.
Yeah. Well, and also as we wrap up here, you're on us amateurs, we're on the tee box on 18. We got a chance to break 80 for the first time in 10 years. What's the right mentality, Patty? What should we be thinking?
First, you got to embrace that you're there. That's the very first thing. You got to say to yourself, isn't it great that I have this chance, that I have this opportunity? This is where I want to be. This is me living. You know, the people who struggle with nerves are the ones who run away from them. You know, the people who do well with nerves are the ones who go, it's okay to be nervous. I'm living, I'm alive. And let's face it, if you never got nervous in your life, it would be a very dull life.
Yeah, be
Very dull.
boring.
Everything you do that really means something to you, you get excited and nervous. So your first kiss, you know, everybody remembers that because they were nervous. So nerves should be, instead of being taken, for some people will take getting nervous as a failure. It should actually be the opposite. Getting nervous means, wow, this is it. This is why I do it. So I think once you embrace it, that's a big start. And secondly, then hopefully sort of routine. So you make a decision, you stick to your routine, you go through your routine, and you have that general level of acceptance. You know, this is, you know, if we had a longer period, you do some visualization, because, you know, if you visualize, you feel like you've done it. The more you've done it, the less nerves you're going to have. But you definitely have to have a level of, like, I know myself, my worst shot comes when I'm not nervous, and then in the middle of the golf swing, I get nervous. So if I've got an easy hole and at the top of my backswing, I go, oh, don't hit it left, I'll panic. Bad shot. If I've got a very difficult hole, water left and out of bounds right, well, I'll stand in the tee. Oh God, this is really tough. This is tough. Oh God, I'm worried about this. I didn't sleep last night thinking about this. You know, I'm panicking, but then I'm narrowing every time I'm panicking before I get over. So if my expectation that I'm going to be nervous when I get to the top of my backswing, if my expectation I was going to be nervous, if I get nervous, well, I was expecting it. I don't panic. Whereas if my expectation was I should be able to do this cool as anything, and I get to the top of my backswing and I get a tiny bit of nerves, well, that can blow up. So my whole idea is, if I expect nerves, they don't affect me anywhere near as much as I actually play much better with nerves when I'm expecting it. I'm terrible. And I've done this when I get overconfident, and I think, you know, like my 70-second shot at the Open in Carnoustie,
Yeah.
when I hit that, I just was so confident walking onto that tee. I was so confident until I got to the top of my backswing. Like, I just thought I was going to blast it down the middle. Never had I hit the ball as well as I had that day. And I got a little bit of panic at the top and magnified into a huge thing. Whereas if I got in that tee box and was swinging badly, you know, the amount of, you know, energy to go from, oh, I could do any of this, I would have brought it into this. Whereas I was like this and just ended up like that, because, you know, so it's not, and whether I'm lying to myself or not, I believe I've played well under pressure in the past, and that really helps. So when I get nervous, I go, I am actually better when I'm nervous. My focus sharpens for that very reason. I go wide to narrow when I'm nervous, whereas when you're confident, you can really, sometimes you can lose the plot a bit.
Yeah, great stuff, Patty. It's been great chatting with you here for a bit, talking Ryder Cup, talking tips for the amateur golfer. You can follow Patty, of course, Patty's Golf Tips, and then he's on Twitter as well, Padraig_H on Twitter and on Instagram. Great to talk to you, my friend.
YouTube as well.
Yes, YouTube.
YouTube. So I put longer videos on YouTube and short ones on Instagram and on my PadraigHarrington.com. So everything I know is up there. And if you want to have quick tips that certainly I believe do work, I might beat the same drum quite a bit all the way through my tips, but I do believe that the average golfer has got it totally wrong. So if you're playing off like 15 handicap and you've been playing the game a few years, you've got it wrong. This game is a lot. Everybody should be able to play off single figures. That's all I'm saying.
Wow,
everybody. It's not everybody. It's not to move the ball forward. You make an as athletic a move as you can. You figure out where the club face is, and you know you have some experience of how to get around the golf course. Those three things. It's nowhere near all the teaching that's out there tends to be for the low handicap golfer, the real niche. And, you know, it's very important for, you know, if you're a scratch golfer, yeah, it will be, well, yeah, okay, let's say scratch or under 5. It will be important that you get that extra 5 degrees of shoulder turn, or that you lay the club down in the downswing. What does that mean? Like, to the average 14 handicap, lay the club down in the downswing. What do I take it and put it on the ground? You know,
Another language.
So, yeah, look, there's very few people, and it's instinctive. I've seen this with toddlers and things. Give them a stick and ask them to hit something big. So if you picked up a stick and you were asked to hit a tree trunk, as you did when you were 6 years of age, I guarantee you it'll make a great athletic move. And you watch kids who have never played golf, give them a stick and ask them to swing it, and they'll make the most perfectly coordinated move. Then they come to golf later on in life and they think, I've got to keep my head still. I've got to keep my head down. Those two things will destroy you. I've got to stay still. I can't move. I've got to turn my shoulder. Turning my shoulders has done more damage to golfers. Like, it's ridiculous what, you know, and I'm not saying there are people who have well, if you have a limitation in your movement, it would be even worse if you try and turn your shoulders. You know, look, to hit the golf ball for a man, to hit it like 240 yards in the air, it only requires your hands. And I'm not saying your body doesn't work, but a normal person playing the game needs to have their hands and arms lead the swing, whereas a top class pro will want his bigger muscles to lead the golf swing. They're two different things. They are not the same person. And telling I can say this because I'm nearly 50 years of age, telling a 50-year-old man who sits at a desk all day to go out there and you know, make a shoulder turn past 90 degrees and do this, that's just not going to help him. You know, if you can swing it, you're pretty damn good.
That's it. Paddy, great stuff, my friend. Thanks for joining again. Thanks for your time, my friend.
Okay, no problem. You're welcome, Gary.